All right, we should be live. Welcome back to another episode of Command Control Power. We are pleased to be joined by Tim Pearson of Creative Techs. Thanks for joining us, Tim.
Hey, Joe. Hey, guys. Happy to see you. It's a long time. It's been a couple months since we've seen each other.
Yeah, we got to see you at Aces. You know, that was really fun. Sam and I did. This time, Jerry couldn't make it for Aces, but Sam and I did.
You have to keep bringing that up, huh, Joe?
We got to get you there next year, Jerry. So actually, it's just, speaking of Aces, just been announced that it's going back to Austin this year. So very tempting, although I do have travel in May again, so I'm not sure if I'm going to try to make it, because I think there's a little bit of space in between Aces and my trip, but it's very cool that it's going back to Austin. That was a fun time.
Yeah, that was fun.
I'm excited to go to Austin. That's a fun city. So
Tim, I'm just gonna ask you a favor. Can you blur your background, because all your guitars are really playing me down with like one guitar? I feel so lame over here.
I know. Sam, you need some more instruments.
Yeah, you'll put like a trumpet back here or something.
I don't see an amp, Sam. Like, where, you got like
that's acoustic. It's acoustic, man.
Nice.
We were talking before we hopped on. Like, that's purely there so that when I'm talking to a customer, they have something else to think about.
Nice.
We've got something to talk about. I mean, it's kind of how business works, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Sure. The small talk. Yeah,
I like it.
Exactly.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure Jerry has some instruments around. He just has this Cupertino background that you said that's included with Sequoia, Jerry, that spaceship background. Very cool.
Yeah. Yep. Tim's office is right over there. Right over there.
In the trees?
In the trees?
I think you mean the other side. Yeah, that's the. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a tree house or somewhere.
It's his second office. Yeah, I wonder if you can wave to us during the show here.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool. So Tim, yeah, it's good to have you back. I'm just going to get it right out of the way at the beginning. We vowed that we would not specifically bring up the Pearson plan, so I'm going to address that head on. Jerry shaking his head, of course. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that like there's like this large undercurrent of CCP listeners who every time that the Tim Pearson plan is mentioned, they have to do a shot.
That's right.
I mean, if we get going here, we can make people a lot of sick in the afternoon if we're not.
Yeah, that's true. That's already twice. So I think we need to give them a break for a little while here. But no, I mean, there's plenty to talk about. There's a lot of stuff. Again, going back to Aces, I guess you're hosting tomorrow, which is it the second one? Is that right? In the lineup here.
Yeah,
tomorrow
is this is month 2 of Aces After Dark. And I mean, that Aces After Dark was kind of that thing we tried to do in where were we? Salt. Yeah, I was gonna say Salt Lake City. Yeah.
There you go.
When we were in Salt Lake City, and I failed miserably at it. We just had too many people, which was a great problem to have. But we couldn't really get into the details in the woods and stuff about what we're doing. So. So last month we talked about business stuff and billing and collections and plans and things like that. This month we're talking about what I like to call like stupid MDM tricks or stupid RMM tricks. And so we've got some great speakers lined up. So if you're watching this live now, sign up tomorrow or sign up and join us tomorrow afternoon. If you're not watching us live now, you can still sign up. And you can get the videos and you can watch next ones, this one and next one. And then next month, which would be November.
Yeah.
So for November, we're going to be talking about PSAs and some of that type of journey there. So I think there should be some great useful stuff. And for people who aren't in the know or don't know, this is a community thing. We're not sponsored by any vendors. So, it's not like we're shilling some, go buy Adigy, go buy Halo, whatever like that. Now we might talk about those things and how we use them, but there's no, it's by the people for the people. So it's
nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have to say, I like the idea of the tricks for MDM, RMM, because it's, you work in a product, you do your thing, and then it becomes habitual. You just kind of do what you know how to do.
Yeah.
So hearing other people say, oh, I do this, like, oh, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have a light bulb.
That's really kind of the part that's exciting to me, is because I think one of the talks tomorrow will definitely be a like, oh, you can do, well, if I could do this, then I could also do that. And I could do this and that and this. And I don't even have to be logged into my, account to do it. And so I think there's a lot of cool stuff that we'll see. Or it could all crash and burn. Who knows?
Yeah, I think this topic is right up Jerry's alley. I know, Jerry, you've been working on, as you shared in a recent show, kind of migrating, so to speak, the monitoring part of your business and the remediation part. Well, migrating the monitoring of Watchman monitoring to Adigy, which then adds the remediation capabilities. So that gets to be pretty powerful. So yeah, I do like the tricks idea, like Sam said, to just like one or two of those, even like you implement an Adigy and you can get, it's just really powerful stuff. I love the fact that some of this stuff you don't have to, like you said, log in and go take action. It's just sort of automatic. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, we've been doing, so I think for us, 2024 has kind of been the year of integrations and what can we do? Like, what are we doing? How can we do it better? How can we leverage the other tools that we have, do more with less, that type of stuff? And I think, and be better, better serve our clients. And I think, some of those things, like we've just set up, not to go, I don't know. We could talk about guitars, but
I'm sure it'll come up.
But we just set up, I finally got around to like fine tuning like the Ninja integration that we have into our PSA, which is we use Halo, and we only use Ninja to manage Windows devices, and we manage under 50 Windows devices, so it's not a big amount of anything. And I often kind of feel like, I hope there's no customers listening. I feel like those are kind of neglected a little bit, and they're kind of the forgotten stepchildren. And like forever, we've had the ticketing come in from Ninja, but it just opens a ticket, whether we're using Zendesk or Halo or whatever. And it becomes this like, oh, there's 50 Ninja tickets again today. Well, there's nothing to that. It's like, oh, software got updated, so we just auto close. You're in this cycle, and then you're not helping anything, and you don't miss the ones where actually like something didn't get backed up or whatever is important. So I just this week have like gotten that fine-tuned, and I'm so excited about it because we can also, what is kind of cool for me, or I think is cool, maybe nobody else will think this is cool, but we can have Ninja alert and say, hey, we updated software on this device. We updated Edge, the Edge browser, from version 1 to version 2. And that can come into my help desk. It gets assigned to the customer that it belongs to. And it can go follow like a little workflow, and the ticket can get automatically closed, but the activity was tracked. And so to like some of those, like the reporting, the like dream reports that we always want to like, I just want to show, I don't know, if you talk to any of my vendor or the vendors we use, they'll tell you about the Tim Pearson report. And it's still like, there is still a whiteboard in my office that I made up in like 2016. That was like, this is my dream. This is all I want to tell my customers, these 10 things that we did this for you. So they're never worried that they're not getting their value from us, right? Like, I want to tell you that we backed up X amount of data this month on your behalf. We updated 75 applications across 50 machines or whatever, these silly things. So it's just like, because I think we all get in that spot, or maybe we don't, but I think we all get in that spot where we're doing the managed software or the MSP type model. But then we're maybe not seeing people as often. And so we want to prove to them our values, because I think we're always worried that somebody's going to say, well, what did you do for me lately? I don't want to pay you or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And so to me, like this became a really cool, like aha moment where I was like, oh, I can open the ticket. I can close the ticket because it fits a certain parameter, right? It says that it just updated software. Well, I don't really care.
So Tim, is that like, just to get into the specifics there, is that like, body contains quote, software updated to blah, blah, blah version? There's your blah, 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 Jerry, drink.
That's a really great question. And that's what got me hung up, because I thought it was subject contains. So I was looking subject contains software install : and then I figured, that would be safe and never. but because it's actually an alert and using the webhooks, it's not the subject of an email. And so that I kept thinking, I've got this all set up right. Why isn't it happening? And it's not closing anything.
Okay.
But it's actually, but it's I think it's description is what this particular one ended up being. But yeah, but that's the gist of it. Yeah, is find this thing.
So okay, take me to the next step. So you have some kind of a workflow where it says description contains quote whatever, and then close the ticket and do what? Does it log at to like a text file or
Well, no, that's not how I've got it going. But so in Halo, you can set up some different dashboards, and this is my next step that I'm just getting to, is so then I can pull a dashboard that is tickets open and closed based on this, and then call that whatever I want and to show 43,000 or whatever, right? And then and then I can just present that to a customer on
amazing.
Or I can give them their own login to their side of the platform, and they can see the dashboard or whatever.
Right. I mean, which by the way, like if sorry, go ahead, Sam.
No, that's all right. I was going to say there's a beauty in that because, the back end of that, or the reverse of that, I should say, is like, if you don't have that and then a customer asks for it, you got to scramble potentially. Like, I got to put this together. I'd rather, because some people have said as an MSP, they're like, well, the customer never reads it. I'm like, well, sure, that's entirely possible. But the day that they want it, it's like, here's your history and here's the most current data that you're looking for without even lifting a finger.
1,000%. And it really does end up being important, and maybe it's not important today for a lot of our customers, but when you get to really talking about security and compliance, I don't know, security and appliance, I don't know what I was saying, but when you talk about security and compliance, a lot of times you have to show proof, right? And so like, I love to have that ticket history that nobody's ever asked me for,
right?
But knowing that I could go back and say, if you wanted a snapshot of did this get updated within 3 days of whatever, well, tell me when this came out, and then I'll go and look and find the ticket that says, yeah, we updated that software. Cool.
Right.
One other thing that occurs to me with this, as I was thinking about it, is obviously the automation of it, because we ran into some issues where, because of those automated tickets that come in so frequently for certain things, my guys were just closing them a lot and not reading them. And then I had to institute a plan where I'm like, listen, guys, this is not acceptable because you're closing things that have to have action taken on. You're just assuming. So I'm like, you need to put an internal note. And I don't care if it says just a little tidbit of information, an internal note that says like, this has no errors or this or that. But it's still manual. So like something like this would be much more automated.
Yeah. And if you can kind of automate some of that. So I'll tell you another thing. And I mean, if we start naming vendors and stuff, I feel like they should give us some props here too, but I don't know. So like for me, one of those things that was just a massive, like 48 tickets a day that I just auto closed because I didn't know what to do with them. I certainly didn't have time, and it wasn't, I hope no one's listening again. It wasn't that important. Right. All of those backups that happen on your Synology devices, right? So every one of our Synologies, right, they're backing up to, they're probably, they might have a local backup. They certainly have like a Wasabi backup. And then they also are probably backing up the customer's Office 365 instance or their Google instance or their Dropbox, right? And so there's all of these backups that are happening. And we all know that it's impossible to monitor those backups. Like, you're just getting an email and we're assuming best case scenario, right? And like, if you set them to like, have one of your, like we have a couple of internal Synologies. So one of those like acts as a CMS. And so then we may also get a duplicate notification from the CMS saying that this.
Oh man, right? I'm so glad I'm not alone on all this stuff, because I get the same thing. It's just like Active Insights alerting me, CMS, like the machine itself, like it's just
okay.
I'm like, thank you, great, okay.
All right, so Joe, when you sign up for this service, you make sure you tell them Tim Pearson sent you.
I will. So is it the backup? What I want to remember the name of this. Go ahead.
ScalePad has a product called Backup Radar.
Yes.
Backup
Okay.
Radar does exactly this, and it's fantastic. And if somebody's already talked about it on the show, we don't have to go into it. But I will tell you,
let's talk about it.
yeah. So Backup Radar is fantastic. Essentially, what you do is you set all those Synology alerts into Backup Radar. Backup Radar looks at them and circles, basically calls out the ones to you that require attention.
Yeah.
And all the others don't. And they go on a daily basis. So, and the Backup Radar people can correct me if I've got this wrong, because I probably do. But, essentially we're looking at today, and today on this device, did I get a good backup? I don't care if I got 3/4 of a backup the first time it ran, if it runs 6 times during the day, and like 5 of those 6 times I didn't get a full backup, but on the 6th time I got a full backup, then we get thumbs up, right?
Nice.
And so, that has been life altering because it kind of threw it right out there for me, though. Like, okay, here's the ones where we're having problems. Here's the ones that aren't. It showed us that, for instance, we had set up a couple Synologies where they didn't back up on the weekend. I don't know why.
Yeah.
There's no reason to or not to. We must have just been thinking whatever.
Right.
And so suddenly we'd get this, like, well, we're expecting a backup every day. You didn't get one. Like, why are we missing a Saturday and Sunday every week? Oh, okay, this is cool. Nice. So, it kind of helped identify some gaps. But the big thing was, I don't remember the exact number of tickets that I was like essentially just close, but I want to say it was probably in the, more than 50. And now it's like 1. It's and so I know it's actionable, because if it got through these firewalls, right, like this is one I actually have to do something about.
Yeah.
And so I think that's huge.
As I listen to all the great things that you're doing here, Tim, and Joe and Sam, it occurs to me that, like, why, as I explained on another show, I'm not the guy who's going to figure out that you have to put the worm on the hook and you have to have a line and throw it out into the water. I'm the guy who comes along later and you show me the worm and the hook and you say, this is what you do and this is how you catch the fish. I realize that every recipe isn't right for every Mac admin, like we're discussing here. You have PCs in your network, some have more, some have less. But why do we have to all come up with our own inventions? I mean, why is this? I mean, I understand there's different vendors and not everything plays nice with one another, but I would almost pay up for subscribing to a service that said, okay, MacWorks, this is what you want to do. We've got this thing for you, and we're going to charge you every month for our recipes, but this is the way you can kind of get your life in order. Because otherwise, I mean, I'm the dumbest guy in the room, and Tim, you're extremely clever and you have the wherewithal to figure these things out. And I'm sure you do, Joe and Sam, but I want somebody to show me how to fish.
Well, I mean, I thought that's why we all came to Command Control Power for.
Yeah, but I mean, these are bigger problems. These are like Yeah, no, I know you're, it's a joke, but it's a big problem. It's like not everybody has the skill set or the tools or the time or the technique. Not everybody has the snap-on tools that you've got to make everything work together.
So, Joe or Sam, which one of you should tell Jerry that he needs to go to Aces? I think that there's a lot of that stuff that kind of.
I've been to 2 Aces. I've been to 2 Aces.
So I think that there's a lot of that comes up at Aces. I also think that there's a lot of that happens in the hallway track, right? There's a lot of the, like,
late lift early.
I'm sitting down with Joe and Sam, and we're talking about I think, Joe, we were talking about, like, the reason I made my PSA purchase was because I could link my PAX8 purchases right through the PSA and get them into QuickBooks and have it just shoot through. And that was going to save me, like, 6 or 8 hours a month. And not only was it going to save me 6 or 8 hours a month, but more importantly, it was going to mean that I was going to get my invoices done and out the door in a timely fashion. and not have me be, I was looking for the nice ways to say pissed off mother effer that I get to be, like between like
will bleep you out. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Between like the 8th and the 15th of the month, where it's like, I needed to get those invoices out. I haven't done it. Now it's just piling up on me, and it's making me crabby, and it's affecting cash flow and everything else. Yeah. But I do think that you're right, Jerry. There should be a service to do it. I would also say that collectively, like us as a group of ACNs, from what I know about us, we're all pretty cheap. And so we're not going to pay for another thing to make another thing work. Like, that's just, and sorry, friends, but we're all friends. So it's cool. And I'm speaking for myself as well. But I do think that is kind of where some of this community thing stuff comes up. And that's why it's been so valuable to me. I mean, I made a joke at week 1 of Aces After Dark that the reason I'm here doing After Dark is because I want to learn some cool stuff from other people that I'm not knowing. My biggest weakness was my collections. Guess what we talked about week 1, right?
Nice. Yeah. Sounds like a self-serving topic.
It was. Thank you all for joining.
Yeah. No, it's great. So I agree with you, Tim. I think it's great to crowdsource some of this stuff, because sometimes it comes out in the conversations. Like, here's the problem I'm facing. Oh, I had a similar problem. Here's what I did. Someone else chimes in and says, oh, why don't you consider doing it this way? So sometimes it is about the conversation and the discussion, and just, it organically emerges like what the right solution is for your particular needs. But I also like what Jerry's saying about, a recipe, or like I almost want to say, okay, if you join the ACN today and your business is serving, small businesses, and, your average client size is, 5 to 50 or something like that. Then here's the way, like, here's your playbook. Like, it's not free, probably, unless Apple wants to sponsor it or something like that. But like, here's your playbook. And maybe that means you can pick from like this MDM or this MDM, like those are the top 2. And, here's what, here's how you do monitoring and remediation. Here's how you like ensure software updates. And here's how you deal with like the noise from your ticketing system, in terms of like, if you're also adding file servers to the mix, or so you could just, you could flow chart the whole thing, and you can say, do you do this or not? Okay, great. Do you do this or not? Fine. And then like, you can have instructions just spit out from the other side of that to say, sign up for this tool. It's $50 a month. Sign up for this tool. And just like walk people through the process, because I do think like there's an economy of scale there. Like, why are we all reinventing the wheel and saying,
exactly.
Right. It's like you're just making it up as you go along, and times, how many like hundreds of ACNs, like there should just be like 5 different ways to do this stuff. And you just pick like what works for you,
And let me just interject here, and not to rag on the community, but for instance, the community that's built within Adigy, that community portal kind of didn't live up to its promise, did it? I mean, I know Joe, I'm not, Patty, this is not a hooray for Joe story, but Joe made
I think last I checked, I had the highest rated like community script in there. So
exactly, yeah, and everybody kind of like fed from the trough when Joe submitted those recipes that seemed to work. But
I'm joking, by the way. I actually think there's a ton of people in there, that have contributed a lot more than I have. But back to your point, Jerry.
Quick clarification from Joe.
Yeah.
So that's why I said it wasn't a hooray for Joe's story. But the promise of that community saying like, oh, well, if you need to do this, you could just simply go here, and all the people that are subscribers, they're going to contribute to this, and it's going to happen for you. And you look in there, and it's there's things that have been there for a long time, and there's very few new things. Well, so,
I don't disagree with you on that. But and I think I made a comment, because when this came up in the Adigy Slack the other day, right? And I made a little comment on there, and that was basically like, there's a lot in there, and I'm not sure that there's a lot more. Like, I know things have changed and stuff, but there's not necessarily a lot more that you need.
What I want Tim
that
would be
like
like
super specific. Right.
Every Watchman plugin, like every feature of Watchman that I use, I just want to like have it be an Adigy, just, add to Adigy from the community. And a lot of them are there. Like there's Backblaze scripts and
Sure.
Yeah, but the Backblaze scripts, I don't mean to, I mean, some of the ones that are there are broken, and the only way you can get results from a Backblaze script, and I'm not sure how Watchman Monitoring was doing it, is the only way I could figure it out was to run an Apple script.
Well, I mean, and that's why I watch. So I'll throw this out there. Like, that's why Watchman's a good product. They figured this out, right? And it wouldn't be super cool for us to like reverse engineer their stuff. I cleaned it up.
No, of course not.
And then post it in the community for everybody else to like share it, right? I mean, like,
right. I don't mean to say like here's
Alan's
here's
IP from his back pocket. And
no,
right?
No, but just rewrite the script from scratch. It just what I mean is like Watchman is the list of things that I need, and it's actually a small subset. It's like maybe
that's
3 or 4 out of those. All the things that Watchman does is what I really need to have an Adigy. And I agree with you. I think Watchman has been a great product for a long time. They've spent a lot of resources to engineer that stuff, to engineer the plugins that like I can't, like Jerry's saying, I can't figure out how to get the same information from Backblaze. I mean, it would take me a lot of hours to figure that out. So that's what I'm paying them for,
Right. And I know there's the, and this also comes, so we're in a funny spot, right? Because our platform's fairly mature, right? But there's a couple things going on too. So like, cause I know there's people have been frustrated because like nothing new's up in Watchman, but I'm not sure what new we would want in Watchman. That like it does what it does. Like we would like it to be on we'd love it to be on Synology, but there's a technical reason it can't be, and it's never going to be, but then also to Jerry's kind of question earlier about like, give me the blue book, give me the handbook or whatever. Right. The problem isn't necessarily the community or the people doing this stuff, or that the problem is, in my mind, is that if you look at the vendor landscape and the like, if you go on, now I'm going to badmouth more friends, but why do we bring Tim on? Well, but like, if you look at the vendor landscape, or like you call yourself an MSP and you kind of get into this like how many MSP influencers are there, and how hard is, let's say Kaseya trying to get you to move, first they're trying to buy all the market, but then they're also incentivizing you to move from one thing to the other thing, right?
I get an email from my sales rep every other day.
Right. I mean, well, and we just mentioned them, so we're all going to get an email. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of like a huge thing. And and I'm not saying that these companies aren't coming up with new products that aren't relevant or useful, or don't fill 90% of what I need that I wasn't getting somewhere else, or like like Backup Radar. To me, that was a new thing. And I'm sure there somebody else was doing it, or if I was using a different service to back up than like just the built-in hyper backup. Is that what they call it? Hyper backup. Yeah. If I was using some different service, then maybe that wouldn't be necessary. But I do think that there's definitely, in our industry, there's so many moving parts with tools, and we take I usually spend June like Maria Kondoing my tool set, where I'm nice. Like, this is what we have. Is this still, does this still, work for me? Like, so how deep of a dive do I need to look into something else? Or like, like we have, so for instance, we have splash top licenses. So we can do the SOS, right? But it's built into Adigy, which most of the devices we serve are handled in Adigy. We don't really do one-off work. And then we have a few devices where we have their headless servers in some closet somewhere. So we make sure there's like 6 different kinds of ways we can control it, just in case something's down, right?
Right.
Well, last week, I started getting notifications. Like, I started getting emails that the splash top agent had been removed from X device. And you know, the first two that came in, I was like, oh well, I mean, you know, maybe Kyle's doing some house cleaning. That makes sense. There's probably machines that aren't there anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I got another one, you know, and I said, hey Kyle, is this you? And he's like, no, I thought that was you. And I was like, oh shit, okay. All right, well now, and then you start looking at him and like, is it that? And then I was like, well, did I not pay? You know, have I not been paying? And now they're just, but no, we've been paying. Mm-hmm. And so I opened a ticket with Splash Top and I was like, hey, you know, what's the deal here? And they said, well, can you get the logs off the device? I'm like, well, no.
Now I don't have a way to get in. Yeah.
The device is like, you know, 4 hours away. This was the way I could control it.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, why did I renew Splash Top? Because I probably didn't need it and it's not really hurting me, you know. And then on Saturday morning, I woke up to an inbox with like 15 devices gone, you know, had been removed from Splash Top.
Yikes.
Huh. This is interesting. So,
well, you have a much bigger install base than I do, Tim, but I went through that too. We're just inexplicably, and they were the ones that I had automatic login to just like you. So, and I did reach out to them. I did the very same thing that you did, and there was no explanation. So
you never found out why?
No, I never
and
found out.
They were really
why.
gone?
But yeah, yep, they were removed. Yep, automatically removed.
And I wondered, you know, I was like, is it they're running old OSs and it's no longer supported?
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. That would have seemed normal to me, but they didn't. And the ones I spot checked, I don't think would have been the case, but
it wasn't sparking joy, right? Correct.
No, they're getting Maria Kondo'd.
Yeah,
they're
you know,
though,
getting back to the bigger picture, is it? You know, I think you're kind of saying in a roundabout way that the marketplace is fragmented because there's so many players and everybody does something a little bit differently. Yeah. And I guess it would be great. And again, this is just wishful thinking, to have a resource where, you know, a web page, you know, by maybe it could be a consortium of ACNs who said like, you know, this is the way we roll down the highway. It may not, there may be other ways to do it, but and I don't know what would motivate somebody to do that.
I'll do that. What are you willing to pay me a month for that?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's at the end of the day, like that's the question.
You're just asking an expert.
I'll give you the Tim Pearson book. What are you willing to pay?
Okay. So that's part
He's
of it
moving
too,
on.
though. All right. So no. I want to respond to that, but that's part of it too. Is what I'm saying is like, let's say you come up, you're like Joe Saponari there, and you come up with some jazzy remediation. Well, you know, for the good of the community, he threw his remediations up there, or his.
I think the answer is 0, Tim. I think Jerry's saying 0.
But like
in the community,
if I spent money, I would say like, oh, I'm not going to. What's my reasoning for sharing this out? I'm not a nice guy. These guys will testify to that. So there's that problem too. Is everybody's kind of like holding their tools other than you, Tim? Because you're.
I felt. Hold on.
Let me finish it. Because I don't want people to, I don't want readers and listeners to write in. I think there's a lot of generous people out in the community, like Joe and Sam and Tim, you know, but I think a lot of people just maybe hold some of those tools close to their vest. I don't know. I'm just theorizing here.
Yeah, I would disagree with that only because like, especially the Slack community out there and things like that, I'm always finding answers and people are very, very willing. I would say, especially in the Mac community, as opposed to Windows, just in my experience, just be very forthcoming about here's what I use. Here's what the cost around it and things like that. You just have to ask. And I think, you know, joking, I know we were joking around going to stuff like ACES and talking to people. And just to defend Jerry, he's been going to ACES since we had to ride by train. So, you know, it's been many years.
That's right.
We've had to be there.
No, but you're absolutely right, Sam. There is this generous spirit on Slack, and there's lots of people out there giving all the time. But I'm talking about solving the bigger problems, not just like hey, have you ever seen this, or you know, what's wrong with my script here? You know, it's the bigger problems of just like the day-to-day running your business. Like Tim's saying, like this is something that Joe and I have discussed using Adigy and using Splashtop. I'm a Splashtop subscriber. Sam subscribes to Splashtop. You know, do we need it? I mean, do we need, if you know, I do some SOS stuff, but it's something that I renewed again. And that's kind of like the thing is like you have this way of putting on your pants, and rather than change your pair of pants or change the way you put them on, you just say like, I'm just going to renew and put on my pants the same way this year again.
Well,
Tools like Watchman or Adage tools like Watchman or Splash Top SOS.
Right.
Well, let me just momentarily shit on everything. Is that okay?
Let's do it.
Clean that up. But I think I don't know, right? But I have a very strong sense of there aren't nearly as many ACNs as there once were.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't nearly as many there aren't as many people who are doing what we're doing. So from some of this stuff, there's definitely an economic impact to it, right? Like what you guys do week in, week out, or now what is it, twice a week and then take a couple weeks off, whatever it is that you do. No, but
we put out a show a week.
We're not really here.
No, but it's seriously, but like, you know, what you guys do to put out a show every week is like there's a lift to that, right? Like there's hard work involved. You know, somebody's got to edit it. Somebody's got to clean up Tim's cursing, all this kind of stuff. You got to come up with topics and guests and everything else. It's not a small lift. And I would imagine that your Patreon does not cover your hours spent.
Right.
So it's for the love of community.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Love it. Appreciate it. I'm a big fan. But, and I think that, you know, when you start talking about this stuff, like Joe, the command control power script you know, he puts that out into the community. And then I would imagine, and I could be mistaken, and I know that I've reached out to him on this too. Now his support cost of that script is actually something, right? Because people are asking him questions about it. Like, how did this go? How do I do this? It's not working for me. It's broken. Well, he didn't break it. It's not his fault. You know, but now he's got to like find a nice way to say, hey, sorry. You know,
right. This is offered without warranty and support.
Right.
You know, I'm unable to provide support, and, you know, disclaimer. But see, to like, just to respond to what Jerry said earlier, like, the reason I wanted to put that into the community was like, as soon as I signed up for Adage and kind of got the hang of some things, I started looking through the community. I'm like, wow, there is actually a lot here, you know, and started adding a bunch and using it. And also on the Slack channel, I mean, there's tons of like people supporting, like, oh, here's a script I use, or try, you know, here's a little script that might work for you, kind of thing. So I wanted to give back, you know, that's really the inspiration for doing that. And, you know, the fame and fortune, but mostly giving back.
But to the like bigger picture about as far as like, you know, somebody putting together this book and or whatever, right, like the guidebook, and say, like, you know, like I said, what is somebody actually willing to pay for that? And the answer is not very much. And then on top of that is, what is my time commitment to put that together? Even if I just even if I said, look, you know what, I'm the freaking best model for everybody. You should do it my way. Here's how I do it. Like, the amount of time it would take me to put that together to give to somebody, you know, and then,
which is not exhaustive. It's not comprehensive. It's like just your way.
Right. And then, you know, I charge you for that, and then you go and use it, but you only use it like half-assed. And then you come back to me and want me to, like, why isn't this working? I'm like, well, you didn't follow the whole thing.
Hey.
Right, like I gotta keep some, you know, like now not only do I have to support my customers, but I gotta support you, right? Like the economics of it are tough, especially when we go back to consider, like, how many of us are there really, and not, you know, so like how many,
what's the total market size? It's
like, how many actual, if you go on the locator and you took all the search things off, right? Are there 100 ACNs in the States?
I think my guess would be like 200. I don't know.
I think
we just know, hosting this show, we know there's a limit.
Right. Yeah. You guys have hit the limit, right?
Right.
And you've hit the limit of the people who are willing to spend money too.
Exactly.
And
so should the burden fall on the vendors to be more comprehensive in what they're offering us?
Well, I don't think, I mean,
There are some, but when you do everything, you don't do it well.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
true.
where do you want to be?
Like there's this one company called Rippling, which I only learned about from another client, and they do like, reselling MDM and this and that, but it's like,
how's their MDM?
yeah, it's hot garbage. So it's
Yeah.
like, you kind of don't want that.
Right.
So you have to pull from different sources, and to Jerry's point, like I've pulled from one source and be like, hey, I use it for 6 months, then I'm like, you know what, this kind of sucks. Now I got to get something else and install that, and like potentially reach out to customers or work on them through MDM. So there's
MDM
that
migration.
too. Oh yeah.
Well, and then on top of that all too, like, so this I do know from experience. You put 65 of us in the same room and you ask what your business model is, and you're going to get 63 different, well, you probably get 72 different answers, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, and your business model directly affects what, like my business model may be able to afford some more expensive tools, and you can only afford the $1.99 tools or whatever it is.
I still think this whole thing could be flow charted, where at the beginning of the question, Q&A is like, are you like, cost, like, are you like cheap and like lean and mean kind of thing? Or are you like high end, what's your, I don't know. And then you could have a few different solutions. And I mean, even just ruling out saying like these 5 MDM products are really not viable. Like, don't even bother looking at them. Here's the top 3 that like you should look at. And if it's, if your client base is mostly like, 50 and up, then go with this one. If it's like a hodgepodge of all different things, maybe a little residential, sprinkled in, and go with this one. I think there's a lot of, it would be a great thing to have, but I totally agree to your point, Tim, that like there's probably not a market for it, like to actually make the money back that you're going to spend putting that together and keeping it up to date and answering questions, that whole thing.
Right.
So,
well, and then that becomes your full-time job. And then once that's your full-time job, now you're a year from now, you're no longer relevant in that answer, right? Because the market has moved away from whatever you built.
There's been an acquisition, a product got really bad all of a sudden, whatever, didn't keep up. Mike Kingsley in the chat has some comments here, because I've thought about this too, Mike. This is really interesting. He said, on this topic, I did consider having a service once where I could train local guys that I wanted to become an Apple consultant, not work for him, but start their own, right? But he quickly realized that it was too much work and probably wouldn't find people willing to pay. So I think there's room for maybe something in between this, like a masterclass kind of thing, where you offer like, here's everything I've learned, from my perspective in 20 years of doing this, and here's what works for me. Like take from it what you want to make work, what's relevant to you, and leave everything else beside. But like a video format that's kind of a snapshot in time type of thing that might include some like space for a Q&A session at the end of it, something like that.
Well, and I think that there's also like, I don't know, now I'm talking deep way out of turn, but this is certainly something that I've talked with others about, going back to like 2016, 2017, 2018, like what if we all run our separate businesses, but we all kind of ran them similar enough, and we could leverage some of our buying power with our vendors, because we're all on, let's say today we'd say like everybody, we're all on Adigy. So what if we could all get, now instead of, we could, say we had 4,000 computers, and so our pricing went way down or something, or,
or even having Adigy sponsor something like this, where, I'm going to recommend Adigy as the MDM platform. So, if I put that into like this kind of thing where it's, it goes way beyond MDM only, but it's also like specifically focused on Adigy and saying, here's how to tune your Adigy instance to like optimize for, the following kind of situations or whatever. And then Adigy could sponsor that to obviously promote their own product. So yeah, to kind of use that, collective bargaining power to maybe go somewhere. But then again, that's just one tool. I'm not sure how far you want to go beyond that. But,
it's one piece of the puzzle. And then there's also the other thing to Jerry's point or question, or at least this is something that popped for me, is because like I've seen in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed, I think there's an uptick in people like in the ACN channel who are new ACNs, which I think is fantastic. And then I was hanging out somewhere else and somebody said, hey, you're a consultant. Can we, like, I've been thinking about maybe becoming a consultant. Can you, and so honestly, we're going to talk next week. So I don't really know much about it, but I think there's also like this one thing that I do wish kind of like Apple would do would be a part, and they never will. Right. But I do kind of wish that, like, as you sign up for the ACN, okay, so here's
coupons. Is that what you're going to ask for?
What's that?
Coupons?
No coupons. But I do wish that there was like a some kind of like, hey, look, if you're a member of the ACN, you have to charge at least $16 an hour for your hourly work or something, right? Like just kind of like put some type of level so people understood too, or know, because I think somebody, there was a question the other day where somebody was like, hey, I got a first call from somebody who might be a customer. I haven't even thought about pricing, like, you know, and of course we don't know their markets or anything else, right? But you just hope that somebody's not going to come in and, you know, go, all right, well, I'll do all the work you want me to do for $50 an hour. Well, that's awesome for you because you're getting some work, but you're actually not making enough to sustain your business, and you're going to crash and burn. And at the same time, you know, you're kind of hurting the rest of us too a little bit, which I know that sounds like socialist or something, and I'll get in trouble for it. But, you know, I'm not price fixing, but you know, there should be like a range, right? Of like, you're going to perform, like, this is what it is. And I think people who are new into the industry or like a new business owner doesn't know how to price their work. And they don't know how to like call up somebody and figure out, you know, like when I first did this, you know, I had a buddy who I had call all the other, a bunch of other ACNs and, you know, like
ask about their pricing.
Like, say you're doing this and this is what's wrong. And can you, like, you know, and we made up a fake business.
Every once in a while, I'm wondering if that's the call, you know, that I'm getting, because it's like
I've had some people call Joe before, because Joe's prices are always, I'm always trying to cut up.
Nice, you get a call on a semi-monthly basis to keep up with my
Sal.
pricing.
I'd like to know about your services.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, that could be, so like, you know, that could be the first session of the masterclass kind of, you know, series or whatever it would be, you know, how to price your services. You know, here's 3 different ways of doing your pricing model. It's hourly, you know, break fix, which I've never liked that term, versus like a, you know, all you can eat, like, you know, all in kind of thing, or somewhere in between, hybrid, whatever. How to structure your monthly plans, what to include, you know, that kind of thing. And so that would be like one session and another session. So, I mean, I want to offer a service like this, but I keep hearing your voice in my head, Tim, that there's just not a market for it. And like, no one's going to show up, kind of like, you know, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it's tough. I could be wrong. I would prove me wrong. I'd love to be proved wrong, but, and, you know, I'll hang up from this, and while you guys record your next one, I'll go make plans and build this thing.
Nice. Yeah, please do. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. I could finally erase that whiteboard, put something else on it.
It's my check in the mail.
Yeah. Jerry, I'll let you can have it for half price.
I'll do the forward.
Nice.
Jerry always gets the special prices somehow, so that tracks.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about Splash Top again, do we, Sam?
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's the one thing Sam is very cagey about, is something to do with Splash Top pricing.
No idea. What is the Splash Top that you're talking about?
See? Oh man, that's great. Yeah, it's always fun to talk about tools and, you know, structure and I mean, going meta a little bit on the tool conversation too, to say like, you know,
you just want to say Tool because it's your favorite band.
I just wanted to say Tool is my favorite band. Yeah, let's talk. Yeah, speaking of music, when are we going to get to the music topic? And we can start with Tool. Have you guys ever seen the reaction video genre?
Like, here we go.
YouTube?
Yeah, I told you, all it takes is like, it's so easy to divert him.
I mean, some of these, because like you know what it's like think of like one of your your favorite songs, you know, like the first time you heard it, the first like 5 times you heard it, and you're like, this is like my new favorite song. I can't get enough of this song, you know. And like now, fast forward 10 years, I've heard this song about 1,000 times. You know, it's not quite the same. It's like I know the song so well that it doesn't hit the same. Still love it, but you can watch these videos of people reacting as they watch this, as they like listen to the song for the first time. And I mean, some of it, I mean, I've seen everything from like people having their minds blown to like crying over the lyrics and music of a song. I mean, it's a really interesting genre. Like whoever would have predicted that would be like a YouTube genre, you know?
Since we've gone down this rabbit hole, Joe, I would have to say,
You're welcome.
I haven't, I think those are bogus. How could
I'm sure a lot of people have already heard the song and then they're doing their like planned reactions.
Right. How could you not have heard, you know, I don't know, a Steely Dan song?
Sure.
Unless you've been living under a rock for the last 50 years.
Well, I mean, we forget how old we are.
Yeah.
You know, like
there are kids that,
you
That's
know,
true.
I've got a 32-year-old and a 26-year-old and a 6-year-old, and you know, like there are gaps, right? And I would be surprised, like I would be surprised if my middle son like would recognize a Steely Dan song as a Steely Dan song for sure, you know. But yeah.
My daughter's got the Smiths on her playlist now. I'm like, whoa, that's awesome.
That is
She's
great.
Like, oh yeah, you used to listen to
Have I told you guys about Dad's Record Club?
No,
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I do Dad's Record Club. So I send like we used to always have we would have people come to our place and we would have parties, and I'd give everybody $5 and they go to the record store and buy a record, and then we play record roulette, and they go in a box, right? I think we talked about this maybe.
So
records go in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we're having dinner, cooking dinner, whatever, having a good time. And you got to go over to the box and pull blindfold and pull something out. Whatever gets pulled out, we have to listen to. And we have to listen to at least one side, no matter what.
One side. Okay. I was wondering if it's one song.
No, you got to get through at least one side. We used to do the whole album, but
how many listeners don't know what a side of a record
means? About that.
It's like, what is that, like 10 or 15 songs? No.
Well, it depends on how thick the vinyl is. Anyway, so we anyway, and so we did that for years. So we'd have, you know, or people come over, and this is what, you know, maybe we don't go by anymore, but we still play record roulette. I got a lot of copies of the Revenge of Bruno, which is the Bruce Willis album, because everybody thought that would be really funny to buy. And you know, so if anyone wants one, let me know. I'll ship you one.
Nice.
But so what I've been doing the last year or so is because I still just like go dig through vinyl and find stuff because it's fun, you know, or like, oh, I remember I had this out. And my 6-year-old, our favorite trip is we go to the Lego store and the record store. They're right next to each other.
Nice.
And so we go in and buy some Legos, and we go and get some records. So we do Dad's Record Club now, where I'll buy something that I think my kids should have heard, and I'll send it to them. And I use Copilot or ChatGPT to like, hey, write me a little thing on why this, like, what were some of the reviews of this album when it came out, why it was culturally relevant or whatever. And then I'll add like why I like it. And then also I send them a menu to like, I said, you know, and my request is, hey, you and your significant other just, you know, dim the lights, listen to the record, have some, you know, have a meal or something around it, and just enjoy it and listen to it. And then if you don't like it, never listen to it again, send it back or whatever. But
yeah.
And it's actual vinyl you're sending?
Yeah, go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
I send them vinyl. Great. Yeah. So we've done, you know, and I mean, it's like, you know, I'm 50, whatever. So I'm looking, the next two I bought the other day. So where the next one out is Prince's Sign of the Times. It's a great album. If you haven't heard it, let me know. I'll send you a copy. And what's the other one? Oh, and then like, Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, right? Everybody should have heard that, right? Everybody needs to have that in thing.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice record recommendations. Love
there you
it.
go.
I will also add a recommendation for listening to your favorite music with like good headphones.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I spent probably 20 years of my life almost only ever listening to music in a car, like, or like maybe on AirPods, or something. But like my favorite music, to actually listen to it with real headphones like that, it can be really, really powerful. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend that as well. I'm not a big like record is, better than vinyl or vinyl's better than CD or whatever, streaming is fine if it's like a decent service, if it's not like super low, like crappy MP3s or something. But
the only reason, this is maybe not true, but it feels like it's true for me, like a lot of things like vinyl, the only reason I like it is the ritual of it, is that it gets put on and it plays, and then somebody's got to get up and make a conscious decision in 20 or 30 minutes to flip the record or pick another one. And I mean, you can't do it all day. Like you can't do it during your work day, but we're all having dinner on Friday night or something. It's just a different thing. And I mean, look, the quality of it ends up streaming over Sonos, so it can't be that good. So it plays through the whole house. But
got it.
But I definitely feel that, like I do like it's the same thing with like my brother has bought me like 3 different times. I'm sure he's not listening. He's bought me like a wine opener that's like super fast.
I was just about to say wine. That's the exact same.
But I like the ritual of like, taking the foil off, doing the corkscrew, doing the thing. Like that's part of the thing. And so,
I know these fancy ones. It's like CO2 is like pulls it out. I'm like, that sucks.
I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's kind of a cool like technology, for like a gag or something. But it's I'm not in such a hurry to get into that bottle, like, so quickly. And like, that I need the most efficient way to open the wine. Like I'm fine to spend the minute, to go through the ritual. And you're right. It's the same thing with the record. It's a great analogy with, like the big artwork, like to like appreciate that, and maybe it like opens and that kind of thing versus, click a button. It's like, that's really not the same. So
now I have to watch Almost Famous. That's like my favorite movie ever. So it's like, he appreciates the record so much. And like, I don't know. It's nostalgic in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I'll bring it back to Tool as we wrap up. I bought when their album Lateralis came out in I think it was like 2001. I think I bought it on vinyl just to have it. Like I never played it. I didn't open it. It was actually signed by them, and it was like $100, which that many years ago was. No, it was a chunk of change for me at the time, right?
Yeah.
And just to like hold this thing, and I looked it up recently, and they're like selling for like upwards of $1,000 online.
Whoa!
Just got to hold it for 20 something years, but that's
nice.
not a bad return actually. So I'm still not going to sell it, but I might frame it and now appreciate it as like this, snapshot in time, this like piece of, art. So
it for sure is. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting turn. I knew we'd get to music. We said it at the beginning, and here we are. Nice chatting with you, Tim, as always. I feel like we had, a little bit of a dad's record club right here. Just only missing the wine. I'm on the water, so,
I know. It's even too early for me.
Yeah. No, same. Well, this has been a great conversation and a lot of food for thought. And thanks again for joining us on another episode. It's always great to have you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to talk to you. And I apologize to everybody that I wronged last hour.
If they feel like, you've aggrieved anyone out there, they can sign up for Aces After Dark and they can tell you to your face tomorrow or next month.
You can find me. I'm on all the Slacks as Tim Pearson.
Right.
No one listens anyway.
Right, guys?
It's true.
Yeah. Well, let us know if you are listening out there. And thanks again, Tim, for joining us on another episode of Command Control Power. Tim Pearson from Creative Techs.
Thanks, guys.
Tim, stay here. Don't go away.
Okay.